All right, welcome to Microcollege. This week on the podcast, we are excited to have as a guest Vilhelm Skoglund, who is the General Secretary of Effective Altruism Sweden, a nonprofit organization dedicated to getting more people to think about how to do the most good and then do it. And one of the things we're going to be talking about is a new program that Effective Altruism Sweden is launching this year called Future Academy for university students and young professionals. But Vilhelm has also had several board positions in the nonprofit sector and is the co-founder of Nema Problema, a nonprofit aiming to facilitate the integration of immigrants through mentoring programs. He has previously worked as a consultant and has studied law, developmental economics, and sustainability studies at Uppsala, Yale, and Cornell University. So thank you for joining us today, Vilhelm, from San Francisco.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm very glad to be with you.
We've spoken to several people from Denmark in the past several months, so it's great to jump across the water to talk to someone who based in Sweden, from Sweden. So I don't know if you've listened to any of our previous podcasts, but we really ground what we're doing, all of our conversations, in people's biographies. So I'm wondering if we could start by, if you could reflect back on when you were 18, 19, 20 years old, kind of setting off on your journey of adulthood. Where were you? What were you doing? What were the big influences on you during that period of your life?
Oh, wow, what a great question. So I'm born and raised on a small island outside of Stockholm, the capital of Sweden. It's quite like a bourgeois background, like a very upper class, and a very protected upbringing. And don't get me wrong, I had a very good upbringing in every way, like lots of friends and a great family to take care of me and all that jazz. But I never really felt like home living there. It wasn't really my just people's interests and just the vibes in general wasn't really something that I connected deeply to. So when I turned 18, I left Lidingö, which the little island is called, kind of straight away. So just a couple of weeks after graduating from the Swedish equivalent of high school, I moved to Norway with a couple of friends, that was a very formative experience for me in many ways. I had this very protected upbringing, just kind of everything. I don't want to say served on a silver platter, but kind of everything just smooth sailing. And I just kind of left with two friends, I should say, and ended up in Stavanger, a small coastal city in Norway, and did kind of hard work for a year or two, and it was just connecting to a completely different part of society, and just seeing something completely different was very important, both for giving perspectives on what I want to do in life, but also just for growing up, I think, taking care of my.
What kind of work were you doing?
So lots of different kinds of work. In the beginning, I was just I was an assistant at a moving firm. So I was just carrying heavy furniture, basically, or construction thingies. And then after a while, I found a job. I actually briefly worked at a chicken, the packaged chickens, for sale, which was I'm a vegan myself, and so it was a kind of gruesome experience. So I had to leave that quite quickly, and then I worked at the airport in Stavanger, this little town, and I spent almost a year at that airport. And it was it was a good job and good pay. Wages in Norway are very, very high for most jobs, actually, and lots of good colleagues and all that jazz. But just most when my shifts started at 2:00 in the morning or something like that, and were long. I was a long commute to work and stuff like that. And from my upbringing, it was a very big contrast. And basically, I did this to save money because I know I wanted to travel. And actually, I had a particular a few things that I wanted to do. I wanted to travel, I wanted to learn English, and I wanted to do volunteer work. And it was very hard to find opportunities to do like all of these three things combined. Like there were many options if you wanted to do one of them, but hard to find options for doing all three of them. But eventually I found a program called Up With People. It was actually like an American thing.
Yes, I've heard of Up With People. I've had in my career as a high school teacher, I had a former student who did Up With People, and then eventually was doing the advanced work when they went to different cities and set up the performance venues and things.
Oh wow, that's so cool!
Talk about Up With People. It's an interesting project.
Yeah, no, it was truly transformative for me. They call it a global education program, and the basic setup is that they bring together. I think in my class we were over 100 people from like 20 or 25 different countries, and it was like from Scandinavia, and from China, from Sub-Saharan Africa. From most people were from like the largest group was from the United States, but just like kind of all over the place. And we were together for 6 months, just traveling around. So you were in one city for a week, and then you moved on to a different city, and to a different city, and to a different city. And through all of this experience, like we did various different things. So first of all, it was like workshops for the group, like workshops and learning, and like finding your own values, and also like intercultural communication, and just self-leadership, and also leadership more generally. But then the biggest chunk was just like service to the community. So we were in all these different cities, first in the US, and then in Mexico, and then in the Philippines. And just varied things in voluntary work. So anything from just like cleaning up landfills in the Philippines, to volunteering at shelters for harmed animals in the US, and just like very varied tasks. This was just like. And also, sorry, I should say that we did like a traveling musical show. So right. at every place we came, we put on a show for like for the local community. And to the extent there were any proceeds, the proceeds would go to like a selected charity in the community that we went to. And it was just a very cool experience, like seeing so many different places, and just seeing so many like different hard things, and also just like lots of beautiful people doing like extremely impressive things to help create a better world. So from this like very protected upbringing in this like suburbs of Stockholm, to seeing so many different things was truly transformative. And I would like mostly seeing. It sounds kind of banal, but it's really the truth here. Seeing people going through hard times made me like seeing that and contrasting that to just how very good I had it at home, and the people around me had it, and how little we seemed to care, even though there was so much just like plain suffering going on in the world. It was just very hard in many ways, but also just like very important, and gave lots of important perspectives. And it was kind of then that I decided that I wanted to dedicate my life to like helping the world somehow.
Beautiful. Yeah, in the interviews we've been doing on this podcast, travel comes up frequently as a key formative experience, and service work, but just immersion in other cultures. It's interesting to see. I think Up With People does that in a unique way, with performance as well as service work.
Yeah,
great to see. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I think so. So from there, you clearly have dedicated your life to various forms of service and making the world a better place. I think, I wanted to acknowledge here that we're recording this on the 29th of November, 2022. And, a lot of people may have not heard of effective altruism before, and some of them may have heard about it in a way that is in a negative light in the last few months with the FTX saga, Sam Bankman-Fried. So I want to give you a chance, Vilhelm, to define effective altruism. What does it mean to you? Why is it inspiring to you? And what are the kind of basic principles of what it is?
Yeah, thank you for this chance to elaborate a little bit on that. So I would say that the core of effective altruism is trying to answer this question of how can we do the most good while acknowledging that we have limited resources at our disposal, and then trying to take those answers and turn them into practice. So a little bit more concretely, I would try to describe effective altruism as two projects. So partly an intellectual project. So researchers and research institutions and just a community of people who are really thinking carefully about how can you do the most good. And then a practical project of taking those insights and translating into action. And obviously this notion of doing good will be different for different people depending on your morals and your beliefs about the world. And I think a very important and one of the key things that attracted me to effective altruism was not being the phrase is cause neutral. So not coming into it having decided that I know that I want to be working on climate change or animal welfare or gender inequality or racial inequality or something else. Don't get me wrong, those are all very important issues, but I think this idea of just I want to help as many people as possible. How do I think I can do that while living a flourishing life and taking care of myself?
Can you say again the word, what kind of neutral? You would say that? What's the phrase you used?
Cause neutral is usually the cause. So different causes that you could
which pathways?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So climate change would be one cause, or gender inequality would be one cause, or racial inequality, or the different venues of doing good. So for me myself, my career started with starting and running a nonprofit called Nema Problema. And we were working predominantly in Sweden, but in the Nordics with trying to create better migration and integration policies. So many of your listeners are likely familiar with that a couple of years ago. So in 2015, 2016, Europe and actually mostly Sweden especially saw a very large influx of migrants after the wars in Syria and the Middle East. And that created some challenges for Swedish society. So trying to help with that particular problem. And I don't know what the word would be in English, but the generating principle for me to wanting to work with that was kind of just I want to help people. And then this thing happened to be in front of me. And I'm very proud of all the things we did. And I do think we helped a lot of people here in Sweden. I'm very proud of the things that Nema Problema continues to do now without me. But taking a step back, it seems kind of obvious to me that if I'm thinking more carefully about how can I actually help most people rather than just what am I attracted to? What's in front of me right now? I think I could have done more to help more people.
So just to clarify, so you were, there was an emergent situation, right? There was a crisis presented by this influx of migrants, which was in particular situations in Syria and other countries. And so the things you were doing were what sort of things was Nema Problema doing?
So Nema Problema, our main intervention, as it turned out, we did different things at the beginning, trying to see what worked and what didn't work as well. And in the end, our main intervention was providing mentorships for refugees and other migrants who had problems finding relevant work in Sweden. So either not being able to find any type of work or finding work, but work that was clearly under their competencies. So like the traditional story of the doctor working as a taxi driver. And yeah, I'm like, for several reasons, I think like an important aspect of the intervention was not only like helping migrants or immigrants to Sweden to find a way into Swedish society, but also like helping native Swedes like myself to integrate into like the future Swedish society, which like it or not would be more multicultural. Yeah, so trying to like make sure to facilitate that dual process, but like obviously mostly working with helping the migrants find work in Sweden.
So great. I understand, stepping back from that immediate situation, so from an effective altruism perspective, there might be a different way to look at that situation, or the allocation of your time, the resources that you're using to make an impact. How would that be different when we bring in effective altruism into the picture, or would it?
So yeah, so that's an excellent question. So I should say that I think it's very important to just be a good citizen, and I don't think that one should always trying to like optimize or think like, am I doing the most effective thing or like something like that. I think it's just like, it's really, really important to just like try to be kind and try to help people. And I still designate a lot of my time to doing like helping Nema Problema, for example, or similar things. But with my in my case, it's predominantly affected my career choice and how I choose to donate money. So I have like, these are resources that I have decided that I want to do good for the world with, and rather than just like picking like how to do good, more like by like following my intuitions maybe, or just like random circumstances, trying to think strategically, talk to people, read and learn about how could I help most people. So yeah, I think it's very interesting if you talk to people about like, let's say someone's buying a new computer. Like most people will spend like a good amount of time researching which computer is best. Like how do I get my like best bang for buck or whatever. Like when choosing what charities to donate to, people seem to be much less like careful with making sure that they do an informed choice. And I think that's interesting because there is really good like reason to believe, like multiple studies showing that different interventions seem to just have very large differences in how many people they actually help. And I do believe that most people want to help as many as possible. So it seems kind of strange that we're not engaging more like critically in these types of situations. And then similarly with your career, like I wanted to help as many people as possible. I didn't necessarily want to work with migration and integration. Like it was very fun work, and I'm like I said, I'm glad that I did it. But it wasn't like I was married to that idea from the beginning. And I do think that if I'd taken a more neutral stance, I could have helped more people. So just I think there are some heuristics that you can use and that come from effective altruism. So usually if you want to help people, it seems to make sense to do that in a setting where there might be like less abundant resources. And like Sweden is a society where we have very good social welfare in Sweden. And like most people in Sweden are well off, even people in Sweden who are like going through hard times. Don't get me wrong, like they're struggling, but even they seem to, in relation to people in other parts of the world, be in a pretty good position and pretty privileged. So just like thinking about, could I expand my like sphere of compassion to other people in other parts of the world, I might be able to help even more. Or if I expand my compassion to future generations, let's say, who are disenfranchised today for several different reasons, maybe I could do even more. Like you won't have as clear intuitions for helping those people because they're not like right there in front of you. But nonetheless, I think it's like important considerations if you do want to do as much.
Yeah, so you mentioned the word intuition there. It does seem that part of the insight that effective altruism is trying to bring is are counterintuitive answers sometimes, right? The other thing that's striking from the little bit of reading I've been able to do about effective altruism is there's part of the story seems to be, combining head with heart, right? Which is interesting. The part of the inspiration for Thoreau College, the Waldorf School movement talks about head, heart, and hands, right, as parts of the holistic curriculum, right? Thinking, feeling, doing, basically. And it's also that same trinity shows up in the Danish folk high school movement, right? Grundtvig and this folk school, the folk high school talks about head, heart, and hands in various ways. And so, my understanding, and tell me if I've got this wrong. So the idea that effective altruism starts with is that a lot of charitable work, service is sort of heart driven. Right, you're responding to what's in front of you, the particular refugees, the particular suffering animals, whatever. But that perhaps by bringing thinking, right, quantitative reasoning, logic, kind of, many orders down the road, kind of cause and effect, that the impact could be bigger. Is that right?
Yeah. So I think like. While stressing that you still need to have your heart in it, if that makes sense. So I think that seems like a fair description. Like, so many amazing people are like really, really trying to help the world, and I think that many of them could help the world even more if they engage in more critical thinking sometimes, and that includes myself. So like, I'm not trying to say that I'm better than other people, but I would say that that's like a good outline of everything. And I think another important aspect is this just like trying to like, I don't know if that's using your head or using your heart, but trying to like explore your morals and like to see to what extent it's relevant for you to expand like the sphere of beings that you care about and try to help. Like in my mind, that feels like, or like in me, that feels like that's more hard work. Like realizing that, oh wow, I actually do care about non-human animals. I actually do care about like my children, and they will likely care about their children, and they will likely care about all of these things.
Sure.
I think that's an incredibly important part of effective altruism as well.
It's an expansion of moral imagination, right? That there's it takes some effort to imagine beings that you're not immediately interacting with at the moment, if they're in the future or they're far away or they're non-human in some way.
Yeah.
So that sounds to me like a question of education, right? Which brings us to Future Academy. So can you just introduce us to Future Academy? This is a brand new thing. You're in the first month or so of it, right?
Yeah, so I think we're 2 months in now, but it's the first cohort or first class that's going through the program right now. So well, basically, it's a fellowship program, is what you would call it when I try to translate it from Swedish, at least, for students and young professionals from anywhere in the world, and we're trying to equip them with the knowledge and the resources and skills they need to pursue ambitious careers. So like careers is what we're actually mostly focusing on, where they can help the far future as much as possible. So here we have actually taken a step back from this cause neutral perspective that is so central to effective altruism, like not saying that we will engage in a particular cause upfront, but just try to do as much good as possible. And that is because myself and some of my co-organizers happen to think that many of the most important ways of helping the world is actually looking towards future generations and trying to avert some of the challenges that will predominantly bear down on our grandchildren. And the program consists, it's 6 months long, and it consists of 4 we're calling them impact summits, which is a fancy way of saying weekends in Stockholm. And then we have digital meetups between these. Everyone gets coaching, so a professional coach who helps them like make progress on their plans while maintaining a good work-life balance and leading a flourishing life. And then also mentorship. Importantly, also everyone is continuously throughout the program working on a project where they try to like translate their insights into something more concrete that they think can help the world either directly or indirectly.
Mm-hmm. So who is participating in this? How many are there, and where are they from, and why are they doing it?
Good question again. We have 26 fellows right now, so 26 participants, and they are from I should know this, 13 or 14 different countries. So for obvious reasons, like me being based in Sweden and Effective Altruism Sweden being based in Sweden, like the largest group is Swedes and people from the Nordics, so Norway and Finland as well. But then we have people from India, from the United States, from Canada, from Uruguay, from all over Europe as well. So from all over the place basically. Most people are either like in their later years of university or just graduated, and everyone is I think people have different reasons for applying. Some people have like a pretty like particular idea or like particular like track they want to pursue, and they want like help in furthering that particular like ambition. Others are more like, oh man, I'm facing this like they know they want to be doing good, but they don't know how, and they feel like they're not getting any guidance from their university or from like their more common circles. So they're looking for guidance in this very tricky question, basically. But I would say that one like uniting factor that like pretty much everyone mentioned in their applications was the fact that they wanted to meet like-minded people, feeling like they're kind of alone in their like particular endeavors in their particular countries, and wanting to find a community of people who to some extent share their ambitions and who they can talk to about this.
Yeah, so I mean, seems like partially what's going on, is this is a vocational director, right? This is essentially people seeking what to do with their lives, which is a pretty like powerful charge to carry, right? A big and important thing to help out with. So, can you say more about how you're taking that on? What are the mentors doing? What are you doing in these impact weekends that to help these folks achieve their goals?
Well, but I should say that right off the bat, but I am not the one who's doing most of the talking. So we have tried to bring in faculty members from like various different disciplines. So both with regards to like people with expertise in different course areas. So like climate change, risks related to pandemics and other biological risks. Risks stemming from emerging technologies, and risks stemming from great power conflict and so on. But then also people from different what you say like paths. So people from academia, so researchers, people from policies, so decision makers, and entrepreneurs who have started their own companies and that are doing good things to help the world. And it's so like trying to bring in role models and leading figures from different fields of society to impart knowledge, but I think more importantly to inspire and like show what is possible and give someone like some paths that you could follow, basically like trying to help people see what's actually possible and what they can do. And we're trying very carefully to not be like prescriptive in any way, saying like this is what you should be doing, but giving people tools and frameworks to make like sound decisions. And don't get me wrong, it's like we obviously have our ideas. I'm not saying that like it's completely up in there. We're like proposing that like these are heuristics you could use for making an important distinction. And obviously we've created the curricula to some extent. We've been doing some pre-screenings of what we think seems to be some of the most pressing things that you could be working with. But as I said, really trying to help people to make an informed decision by themselves. I like there's three main parts of the program like that's running through everything. So it's this thingy of moral exploration that I talked to earlier. So like just really trying to get fellows to grapple with these questions of like, what do I actually care about, and what do doing good actually mean to me? And it was really cool. We had our first Impact Summit almost a month ago now, and just like seeing some of the people just like realizing that this is a question for the first time. And like I remember having that like insight for myself, just like, wow, I've never thought about this, but like what does doing good actually mean to me? And just like having them come up with rather different answers from what they came to the summit with was very inspiring. So exploring your morals and then trying to cultivate truth-seeking beliefs. So there's a fantastic book that it's called Scout Mindset, written by Julia Galef, and it makes a distinction between soldier mindset, being the mindset that we're kind of often in as human beings, where like you have a particular belief, and like your relation to that belief is like being a soldier. Like you want to defend that belief no matter what. If someone attacks your beliefs, you're gonna like dig a ditch around them, and you're gonna like stand back, and you're gonna throw grenades or whatever. Like you're gonna be like really, really like harshly defending those beliefs. And I don't think that's the best way to go about if you want to get like an accurate picture of the world. Instead, what Julia proposes is that you engage in scout mindset. So like if you see that someone disagrees with you, that seems like something you should be curious about. That seems like something, wow, if you want to have like the most accurate map of the territory, like the territory here being the world, I guess, like actually engaging with people who believe different things from you seems so important. So trying to teach someone like techniques for actively engaging in truth-seeking behavior. And then the last, and like I should also say that a big component of the truth-seeking part of the curricula is like actually introducing people to some of these important ideas. So like what are the most crucial concerns when it comes to climate change, or when it comes to emerging technologies and so on and so forth. And then the last component is just we're calling it development and well-being, I guess. Like there's so many things that you can do to create a better world, and I know for myself, and it seems to be like a common theme with many people who want to be doing like helping the world, it can feel kind of overwhelming, and lots of people just struggling with burnout and not being able to take care of themselves while trying to help others. And I think that's bad in and of itself. One should take care of oneself, but I also think
that's suffering too, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's the last thing, that's
what does that look like? What do you do in that phase, that part?
So it's like I would say that the most important aspect of the program here is that all fellows are equipped with a personal coach who helps them particularly with it, because people have so different needs. Some people actually some people are working too much and should be working less. Other people have like problems with procrastinating and then like beating down on themselves. So that's not as much part of the group curricula, and it's more something that they explore by themselves in the coaching sessions. We do some things, and that is just like during these impact summits, we try to introduce good habits, and also just like establish a culture of like make sure to take care of yourself. So there's 4 main rules for all the summits, and one of them is just like take care of yourselves for all our sake. Like just making sure that if you need some air, like make sure to go grab some air. Like no one will think less of you, and also everything is like voluntary and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds like a great medley there of things. So you're the coaches or the mentors. Who are they? Where have you drawn them from?
Very good question. So The coaches are people who are many of them are rather new to coaching. So some of them are like professional coaches who have been coaches for many years. And before the program, we had a I don't know what to call it really, but like a program for the coaches to make sure that they were in the right mindset for taking on this important task. But they are themselves mostly rather young people who have an interest in personal development and who are and who have designated significant time to trying to help the world. And most of them are like a few years ahead of our fellows in those endeavors. So again, this is it's 10 people from all over the world, differing ages, but mostly people are rather young, who have some experience with coaching and who are helping in this endeavors. I was lots of people signed up to be coaches for the program, which made me very happy. As for the mentors, that's more so. Everyone, as I said, all the fellows, they're working on a particular impact project, or they will actually be starting to work on an impact project rather soon after being introduced to all of the different ideas in the Future Academy. And here the mentors will be hand-plucked depending on the particular interests of the fellows. And most of the mentors comes from the extended Effective Altruism network. So people who I, to some extent, I or the other faculty members know from our various efforts. And it's again, I'm very, very sincerely humbled and very, very happy with how many fantastic people have given their time to help these fellows. So yeah, it's again, researchers from in various different domains. It's entrepreneurs, it's decision makers, it's various different people, but mostly here are a little bit older, I should say.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Every time that I've been involved with, several times I've been involved with starting up new programs, new schools, new ventures like this. So I know it's an exciting moment to be in, where you are right now. And I also know that those months, the weeks before and immediately after the beginning of a new program are one of the reasons I love doing it is because in no other period do I learn as much about people and reality and myself about that, as in that startup moment of something. And so you're right in that phase. I'm wondering what's been surprising, what has been challenging, and what will you do differently next time you do this?
Wow. I think one of my main surprises, the first big surprise was probably just I was very unsure if who will apply for this thing. I thought it was a very good program, and I knew that we would be able to get good mentors and good facilitators and good faculty on board and stuff like that. But nonetheless, it was kind of me and a couple of my collaborators saying we're going to create this program and you can come here from any and it wasn't obvious to me at all that anyone would apply for this thing, and we just had hundreds and hundreds of applications from all over the world and from very accomplished young people. So thirst for interventions and programs just it seems to be very, very high. I don't think we did a particularly good job of communicating this, but nonetheless, we had so many good applications.
Cool.
And I think that seems like something for me to be aware of and for the world to be aware of, that young people want to help and they want to have get better guidance on how to help. I as a subcomponent of that, need better systems for handling applications, because many hours of going through applications. But another very inspiring finding, I alluded to it earlier, but was just like how many people have been willing to help out with this thing, like with no compensation, or like taking time of their weekends to fly to Sweden to like help out with, like it's very, very cool to see. So I guess that seems as another important insight for myself and for the world. Like there are also people who want to be helping these young minds, but you need to like connect them. There seems to be too few of this, like connecting services like that.
Well, those are really valuable things to know about the world, right? A lot of young people interested in doing this, a lot of people interested in helping out, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I sounds kind of cheesy, but it really is like if I look at like my core uncertainties, like listed from like the beginning of this thing, was just like the first thing was literally, are we going to get any applications? And like the third or fourth thing was like, will anyone actually help us with this thing? And it seems like yes, and that's good. I guess another thing that's like a positive or like very cool insight was, I was a little bit like this as you formulated it very well, like some of the like ideas from effective altruism, they are counterintuitive, and I was a little bit like unsure about to what extent will people actually like take to these ideas if you come into Future Academy believing that that like running this particular project in my home country is the best thing I could be doing, and then someone saying you that this seems fantastic, I love it that you're doing this thing, but maybe you could do something else and that's even better for helping the world. Like I had a very hard time seeing like, is that actually like, will people listen to that, and will they make like, will they update in a relevant way, like taking all the new information to heart, and then like assessing the situation and saying, no, I actually think this is the best thing I could be doing, or would some people change their minds about certain paths? Here I should say that most people came in like not knowing exactly what they wanted to be doing, so I guess
I wanted to ask you that. Yeah, how many people had a really like solid idea, and how many people who were like that changed actually?
Yeah, no. So, but I'm very surprised with how open people have been, or I'm surprised, and I'm very happy with how like people have been open, but they've still been like, I mean, it wouldn't feel like we would have been doing something wrong if it was just like everyone started believing the same things as I like that would not have been a good outcome.
Right.
But seeing people like engage with these ideas, engage with them critically, and actually like update their map of the territory, so to speak, like actually like, oh wow, I've never considered this as an important issue to be working on, but this actually seems to be very important. And that's been very inspiring for me as well, I would say.
Yeah.
And to your question, I think like most people had so they we asked them to like say what's your like plan for improving the world when they applied, and most people had some kind of plan that like included some idea of predominantly like what cause they wanted to be working with. So maybe not very surprising, but climate change was the cause that most people mentioned, and I but then like in like some were very like, they had a very specific path. They like knew this is the organization I want to start, and this is like what the 5 next years is going to look like. And other people were like, this, I think this is important, and I don't know to what extent that has shifted yet, but my like anecdotal evidence from speaking to people and just like seeing people interact, it's just like many people like still believe climate change is an extremely important issue, like I do myself, but realizing that there are other important issues as well, and maybe they can use their particular skill sets in better ways to address other problems. Yeah. And something I will do differently, I think, is just I think it's hard to find the right balance of like so many of the faculty and the speakers are like very I would say what's the right word, like impressive people, like Nobel laureates or like top professors at top colleges and stuff like that. And I mean, that's great, and most of them have been doing a fantastic job. but I think I overvalued a little bit, like to what extent like formal signs of being great was actually like indicative of being the best possible like guide or source of inspiration for some other fellows. Like oftentimes it's just like someone being a truly great person and just like really being able to connect with the fellows and actually like stepping into that zone is more important than these formal merits or like impressive achievements. So I think that's something I would like to do differently next time. Think more carefully about okay, this person seems they've done great things, but to what extent will they be able to like translate that into like inspiration and guidance for our fellows?
It's a distinct skill set, right? Not everyone who's very accomplished is a good teacher, a good mentor, or coach.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah. That's wonderful. So I think when you get down to the level of people's certainly their careers, their vocations, their projects that they're working on with you, you're getting into the realm of particular people and their particular life experiences and the kind of window in which they see the world. That moral imagination can be very individual. And I think one of the criticisms or like critiques I've seen of effective altruism is it tends towards abstraction, right? And I got to say, I think that Henry David Thoreau, our namesake here, would have hated effective altruism, like probably everything about it. Just the kind of global nature of it, and the kind of he was all about particularity, right? About this particular pond and this particular place and that particular kind of bird, and that's you build up a life of meaning from those very concrete experiences. And I think it seems like there's when you bring a group of people like you've done, you're meeting at a middle ground, right? People bring themselves in some way. So I guess that's maybe a complicated question, but how do you bring concrete, specific, particular, the kind of the real world nitty gritty, unique aspects of the world into this work, which is also including quantitative reasoning, including these kind of multiple order effects? Is there where do you achieve the balance there?
Well, that's such a good question. I mean, I struggle with this myself. I was like literally for trying to decide what I want to do with my life and my career. Like, to what extent should I just go with what my instincts tell me when I move about with the world and see this like very particular concrete things, and to what extent should I be like updating on this vague moral or like objective I don't know what the word was, but more abstract concepts. And I don't think that we've landed in anything good yet. But I think like what you alluded to here, just like bringing it down to the individual is like my best attempt at doing this at like this particular time, like just exposing an individual to these abstract concepts, and then there's like trying to help that particular person to like translate that into like how can I concretely translate all of these weird abstract ideas into action and like being a good citizen for myself, and what does this mean for me, because then I think it can be like kind of concrete. So like if I use myself as an example, like trying to grappling with all of these different ideas of how can I do the most good to help the world, and then like coming to realize that I actually think like imparting some of these ideas to young people from all over the world seems to be one of the best things I could be doing, and that feels very concrete. And I'm a very concrete person myself. I have a really hard time just engaging with the abstract concepts. But then it's like, I don't know, this kind of duality between like looking up every once in a while and being like, this sounds like good idea, but then actually like being down on the ground is very important. And I should also say that I share the criticism of effective altruism, not necessarily being too abstract, because I do think that like effective altruism oftentimes, I don't know if that's true, but like do a pretty good job of actually trying to like be more concrete. So what does that mean in terms of like how you should go about your life. But there's something with this, like, not always feeling like it's in tune with what's going on the ground, and like maybe there's like a slight disconnect between the like the trying to give specific advice and like, but how does that advice actually like line up with reality being very messy and hard, and like human emotions and human intuitions like will inevitably play a very important part in this, and from my perspective should play an important part of this, that like that you could contest. But yeah, so a very dissatisfying answer, but I think just like trying to bring it to the individual would be my like best idea for how to go about this.
Are you familiar with Henry David Thoreau? Have you read Walden or any of his other texts?
Yeah, I read Walden many years ago, I should confess, but nonetheless.
Just a particular example is coming to mind that as I was thinking about this interview and about effective altruism came to mind. I mean, he was famously kind of the person who coined the word, if not the practice, of civil disobedience. Right? Mm-hmm. He rather spent the night in jail rather than paying the tax, right, that was asked for him that would support the war. And these Fugitive Slave Act, things like that. So very concrete, like experiences his own kind of person, his own body in a moral cause. But he was very critical, had a lot of critique for the societies of ladies who would go around and raise money for slavery issues in other countries, let's say, or the missionaries in Africa, things like that. That the people who would really devote themselves, they'd pay the taxes to support the war, but then they would spend all their time trying to solve a problem far away, right? That a whole group of people that were abstract to them, or were was theoretical in a sense, as opposed to concrete kind of what are you doing today that actually is furthering this particular problem in society. But yeah, I guess for me, a question that I have that arises from that, when I think about positive impacts on the world, the concrete is very important, because that is a very like important way to judge what is effective, right? If there is, you can see the impacts, you can talk to someone about it in your daily life, and also just for sensing what's important. So I'm wondering how you guide your students there to, as they choose different courses, right? Different kind of issues to engage with. Where does that? What is the data? Where does the input that allows them to choose this and not that? Beyond numbers, like there's something personal and something kind of, I guess, intuitive, to use a word we've mentioned before, in that, it seems like.
Yeah. So I would say, like, first of all, I just think, like, I would be very curious to hear about what Thoreau had to say about effective altruism if he would have been with us today. But I actually think there's like oftentimes a surprising amount of overlap between someone like the main the main criticizers of effective altruism and effective altruism, in the sense that like people who I just think thinking carefully about what does it actually mean to lead a good life. Like that's just making so much progress on this particular. I'm much more interested in someone asking themselves the question, how could I do the most good, than like getting someone to arrive at a particular answer of that question. So yeah, I just wanted to say that first.
Yeah, absolutely. And conversations like this, that conversation is really the highest end of education, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, very much so. And then with regards to like how how we're trying to guide fellows to grapple with this particular question, is just I think there are some different things. So first of all, I think it's very important for fellows to just make up their mind by themselves. Like, to what extent am I a person that wants to see concrete impact from my actions? To what extent is that very important for me, rather than like to what extent am I okay with doing something where it might not ever like be obvious to me that I've done something good. So like a very concrete like example here would be someone working with Nema Problema like I did, like helping people on a day-to-day basis, versus someone doing like basic research on an important like course area. I think it's like extremely important that we have people who are doing a basic research at important course areas. But I also think it's important for people who do that they're aware of the fact that you will like most likely not ever be able to say that like I like did this thing and that led to the world being better in this way. Like that will not happen, and that seems like something that's important for people to be aware of when they make these kinds of decisions.
We need people doing both of those things, right? We need people who are working one-on-one with people, and we need people who are thinking at the higher the levels of abstraction. That's part of the full picture.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, and I know for myself, I could not be the person who like does the basic research. Like, I need more concrete things for myself, and just like realizing that for myself seems very, very important. And I totally agree that we need like everyone like on this scale. And then I think there's a I think it's like, all else being equal, I think it's like really good if you can work on issues where there's like more concrete feedback loops. So something where you can actually see that I did this thing that led to this thing, and that is good or bad or whatever, and I should do more or less of that thing. That being said, I do think there's like, it's really important when we come to like, especially this like future challenges, that we are not being overly pessimistic of attempts to do good that are more uncertain. Like, I think it's sometimes important to trust like theoretical reasoning in these areas, because like we cannot say for sure that it will work, because like we cannot wait until we can like get hard data on whether the thing works or not. So yeah, take too long. Yeah, exactly. If I want to like if I'm working on a particular intervention that would be good if the world gets to 4 degrees warming, like I sure hope all people who does that, they don't want their thing to have impact, because they don't want the world to get to 4 degrees of warming. But if the world does, it seems very important that we have had people to like think about and have done work to like make sure that we're ready for that if it happens. So I think it's a very hard thing, but I think it's and like all else being equal, as said, it seems much better to have to work on things where we can get concrete feedback. But I don't think that's the whole picture, I guess.
Yeah, it's a complex balance, you can see for sure. Yeah, so this is a program that's offered free of charge for people. There's no fees, and why is that important? And yeah, what does that add to what you're offering?
So that's a very good question. So I should say that this first round of Future Academy has been a little bit of a pilot. So we wanted to see whether it actually makes sense, if this thing works, if it's something that's asked for and something that seems to help people to do good better. So it's not like at its ultimate stage yet. But we're hoping that this will be a program for people who would not else have had a good opportunity to engage in programs like this. And that is oftentimes dependent on like where someone is from and in what like socioeconomic background someone has. And they're like having someone, having a high tuition or something like that would clearly be a way of barring people from engaging with the program. And I am convinced that we need people from all over the world, from all different backgrounds, to help us solve some of these most pressing problems that we're facing as a humanity. And it seems that if we are able to provide this program for free, it seems better to do so.
Yeah, I think that's. It reminds me of part of our inspiration is Deep Springs College, where I went to school in California, which is a microcollege that is also is free of no room, board, and tuition. It's totally paid for 12 or 13 students each year, and with the goal of service, creating service to humanity, and there's a real charge that goes out of that, right? This is a gift that is paid back through your service in the world, and that that's a paying it forward, you could say, is one way to think about it. And I think with such a distinctly service oriented project as the one you have here, it makes a lot of sense.
That's a beautiful way of phrasing it. I might actually steal that. Paying it forward seems very right to me.
So maybe as a concluding question, I mean, so you're saying this is a pilot, and it's early days. You'll have to review after it's done. But do you have a sense of where you would like this to go? What's the future of Future Academy?
I am hoping that this will translate into something you might call a microcollege. I'm quite new to the concept of microcolleges, but I've been listening to your podcast and I'm learning more and more. But actually having this transform into some kind of institution for creating people who we think can be of great service for the future would be the ultimate goal. So for the coming years, experimenting with different programs and interventions like Future Academy to see what seems to work best and what seems to help people in the best possible way, and then at some point arriving at a stage where we find that where we think that we found something that works well for us, and then translating that into something more permanent. As you know, I am based in Sweden, which and here folkhögskolor, so folk high schools, I guess. No, how would you translate that?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, that really folk high school, right?
Yeah, that's the literal translation, but I think they're more like universities, like folk universities or something.
So my translation of it is microcollege.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
I don't think that there is the right word for it because you say folk high school in the United States, and really that doesn't make any sense in several different directions. Folk school actually has a different meaning already, more craft and handwork school. So we need a new word. My proposal is microcollege. So
yeah, no, that makes sense to me. But this is a pretty common thing in Sweden. Everyone in Sweden knows about it, and I don't know the numbers, but a decent chunk of the population has attended a folkhögskola, so a microcollege. So for me, from the beginning, the idea of actually creating a folkhögskola or microcollege was very, very alive. And it's also just, I guess, it's a thing in Sweden, so it's easier to do than in many parts of the world. And also it's I think there are I actually loved going to university, and I think that universities are great for many different things, but I do think that we need complementary initiatives and things in the world, and I would love to be a part of creating such solutions for people and situations that are less conducive to going to a university.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for spending some time with us, and congratulations. You've taken the most difficult step, which is the first step, and have started something. So I'm sure it'll work out. So thank you for your time. Enjoy your travels in the United States, and I hope to be in touch with you in the not too distant future.
Thank you very, very much for having me, and looking forward to keeping in touch.